Hello, everybody, and welcome to Get Your Affairs in Order. Thank you all for coming. This is a collaboration between the Atatiana Project and Friendship West Baptist Church. So what you are going to see today is some amazing information that you need to know for the end of life process. You're going to hear from Tatiana Jefferson's sister, the awesome Ashley and Amber Carr. They'll detail you why they wanted this program to be provided to the people based on the experience they had after Tatiana's passing. You will hear from Friendship West Baptist Church, Pastor Fitzgerald, Ms. Vicky, and we have attorney Winifred Cannon on, and a representative from a funeral home, Mr. Nat Clark. So you will hear all the information from the experts in the field, and you will learn about the Atatiana Project and, again, the experiences that prompted them to want to come together and share this information with you. So first of all, we are going to allow Amber and Ashley to come on up, and they can share with you about the Atatiana Project. There we go. Oh, I did that wrong. Give me just a moment. There we go. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I want to thank you guys for inviting us, and being here with us and things like that. Amber, you want to talk?
Are you able to hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So I guess the topic right now is just basically, sorry, hold on. It's trying to say that I don't know my own code.
Okay. Well,
so this is the introduction to the Tatiana Project.
Right. That's all we're doing is doing the introduction to the Tatiana Project. The Tatiana Project is a program that's consisted. It's a nonprofit that we want to provide the urban community with hands-on educational career-oriented programs in STEAM. That's science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. We have recognized that these careers are not represented we are not represented in these careers, point blank period. And we want to make sure that the students of our community have that exposure to do the things and be exposed to STEM. We have started working on our curriculum and things like that, and hopefully we can be putting out some things that we want to do out for the summer. But we just want to provide a stimulating place for students and parents to experience and gain support through educational and social needs in the environment. We want to make sure we want to focus on the students' settings and achieving educational aspirations within STEM after high school. We want to provide experience to improve self-esteem in all of the kids and sense of belonging. And we also want, while we're doing this, we're trying to break the cycles of generational poverty in our communities. Here you go, Amber.
Simple as that. No, Amber. You did good. That's it. It's STEM in the hood.
Yes, basically, yes. STEM in the hood.
That's simple as that.
Yes.
Trying to enlighten these kids on things that they've never experienced before. Just period. As that.
Yes, and we're so we have board members. The Tatiana Project was started by Tatiana's siblings, me, the A team, me, Amber, Adarius, and our sister cousin, Cerise. From that, we branched out and we have an advisory board of several members. Dr. Grayson is one of the advisory board members, as well as Mr. James. He was the neighbor. Rashada Botley. She is amazing as well. Tell me who I'm missing. Bree. Who am I missing?
That's about it. We have a small group. It ain't
We
that
have a
many,
small group,
which
yeah.
is cool. We starting
Yeah,
out
we're new.
small
We're
because we
new.
new to
Yeah.
this, so ain't
So
no
we're
need of a
definitely
big crowd.
to, if anybody feel that their gifts can, impact the children of the community, we're definitely open to, doing partnerships or anything. If you want to come in and just help, we're all open to that, because we understand that it does take a village to raise a child. So we want to be a part
Definitely.
of, all these children's villages.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and you'll see at the bottom scrolling the mission or value statement of the organization
Hmm.
and how to donate. So we want to thank Ashley and Amber. You will be back shortly to talk about your vision for today's program. Thank you, ladies. Now we're going to have an introduction of the collaboration with Friendship West. Pastor Fitzgerald will discuss
Hey,
history. And I have to say this, when Ashley indicated that she wanted to do this type of program, because I'd been to the one at Friendship West, which was just amazingly mind-blowing, I didn't see why we'd want to reinvent the wheel when we could just partner, and that excellent information that I saw would be provided as well. So Pastor Fitzgerald will give us the history of the program at Friendship West and an overview.
well, we thank God for this privilege, Dr. G. We appreciate you and all your strength and all your power and all your direction that that you have given not only to us as a Friendship West family member, but as this Atatiana project is dear to our pastor's heart and, of course, to my heart. Um, a brief overview of what we have done, Thy Wills Be Done, is a place where so many of our church members didn't have their things in order. I've been on staff for 20 years, and I came to find that in our communities, we didn't have a place of information cohorts where we come together. And what we did literally was pull in all the funeral homes of the various areas, even in the Metroplex, from Dallas to Plano to Garland, every Fort Worth, of course, and we brought them in to share what their products offer. We found out that many of them didn't have wheels in order. They didn't have their going home information available for their families, and a lot of families were going through a tremendous amount of struggle and strain because of the fact that they didn't have their house in order. So we thank God for the privilege of coming together and doing this. I partner with several of our members. Howard, who is over our bereavement, she'll be the one doing the questionings, pulling in the questions. She is our bereavement leader as of this day. And then a former leader of our bereavement community, Vicki Stewart, she is the one, Richardson Stewart. She is the one that has brought a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today. And she is the proud owner and founder, CEO of CBS Insurance Companies. A lot of times we don't have insurance. And a lot of the coal people, and when I say coal people, white folks, I'll just put it like it is, they have insurance things in order, and their family gets to go on. They build a legacy. So we partner with the Premier Funeral Consulting Unit, and she's been there for 30 years, providing insurance and products and service for our communities. Matter of fact, I loved it so that I became an employee of what she is doing, so that when our members of our church needs a consultant, I can plug what Vicki does, and you'll hear more from her, and she'll in turn share with other funeral homes, and she partners with those funeral homes to bring that information to the table. So we are excited to be a part of this Tatiana project. We believe in it. We know that it will work if you trust us. And that's what we're about here at Friendship West. And we would like to multiply this, not subtract. We want to multiply this so that everybody will get their affairs in order. It's a must, it's a need, and we just have to do it so that you won't bring more problems and stress and strains on your family members as we go through our life and death situation. And that, in just is all that we are about.
Thank you so much for that, Pastor.
Sure.
So we will be bringing you back towards the end for the wrap up. Thank you so much, Pastor Fitzgerald. And thank you so much for committing to this partnership and collaboration. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. So now I'm going to bring back up Ashley and Amber, so you all can tell us your experiences and what gives you your drive to get this knowledge out there.
Well, we've had two people in our lives, in our immediate family, to die within 60 days of each other. Neither one had wills. So we are forced to learn that when you die without a will, you leave it up to the state to decide on who's your heirs, who gets access to anything that you may have, or you may have shared, or you may have saved, and things like that. It's all left up to the state. We also have learned that um, even if we learned that family members are not, let me see, how can I say this? Traditional, untraditional families are not represented in the laws as far as in the state of Texas, definitely. So, for example, if maybe you were raised by your grandmother, or an aunt, or something like that, if something should happen to you and you do not have a will, your parents, regardless if they were present or not, are your sole heirs. If they're alive, then then it goes down, but they start with your parents. So that's a lot that you have to work on, and things of that nature. Just being honest, I have I know people, and I know students and families and things. They You might have a partner or things of that nature. If that partner is not part of a legal adoption and all that good stuff, and you're thinking, if something happens to me, that person will be able to come in, and it becomes a whole legal battle. So with all that being said, we decided that it was best for us to share the knowledge that we have learned in this process with others, with everyone that we have, because we don't want anyone to have to go through what we're currently going through at this moment. Your will, we're learning that your will is your last word, and it means something, regardless of, you might think it's just a little paper, or, a little letter. No, it's your last statement to the world, and it means everything. So we're just, our goal was like, well, hey, let's try to get this information out there, because I don't want anybody to have to go through all the struggles that we're currently going through now. Yeah, so Amber, you want to add?
Do you mind drilling down on us? What do you mean struggles now? What happened? Why are you in probate? Can you give detail about that so they gain a better understanding? And if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine.
Well, we're currently in probate because we have different parties who are stating claims to to Atatiana's estate, and it's so now because of there are so many parties claiming access to her estate, we have to go through what is called probate court, where basically everybody has to make a make a they're making their claim, and they have to provide evidence to why they should be an heir to her estate. Most people will say, oh, her mom's passed, it'll be her sisters and things like that. But we're learning that there are several different people coming in who are staking claim, or, wanting to stake claim. So we have to now fight that, because My sister died without a will. She was 28 when she died. Most people don't think of being 28, and you needed a will and things like that. But I would say my sister, she was a put together person for a 28-year-old. She had her life where it's supposed to be. So most people, when they think of death, they only think of life insurance. And as long as I do the life insurance, then and I put the beneficiary down, then that's fine. But that's just only one part of that. So without a will, it's like anything that we want to do, like say for instance my sister's car, we really wanted to keep it, but because we're not her administrators, there's no heirs, there's no nothing. It goes, um, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't talk to the banks. We couldn't, if we wanted to just pay the car off with our own money, they would not have talked to us because they're saying that we're not an administrator of her estate. So things like that, just things like that, you're just realizing how much that simple documentation means so much and could help, your family, because your goal is to, when you leave, you don't want to leave a whole bunch of stuff that your family has to take care of because they're already grieving. They're already missing you and wanting, having all those feelings. And now they have to, I guess they call it wrapping up a person's life, which I feel like I don't really like that. But but that's kind of what it is. And you have to have all this documentation to do those things. So with that, we were like, we wanted to make sure that we express express what we're going through as well as educate others on so that they won't have to go through this.
All right. So anyone that's watching, please post questions in the chat. And as Pastor Fitz has said, this happens in the community all of the time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we don't understand the importance of a will. Anything else you wanted to share?
No, we're just really grateful that we're able to share this and collaborate with Friendship West on getting this information out to the public, things like that.
I'm going to ask a few questions, and if you tell me if you don't want to answer them. Now, I'm on the outside looking in. I saw a whole big old mess dealing with where Tatiana's funeral was. There was, at one point, it was Friendship West got thrown into it. And then it ended up being somewhere else. Had there been a will, how would that have gone a little differently?
If there had been a will and like final arrangements, preparation, things that we're talking about today, that couldn't have happened. That wouldn't have been able to happen because all we would have to do is took the will to the probate court, and it would have been it's easier to take a will to a probate court and say, hey, this is what it is, versus going through the process of letting the court decide, because that becomes more events and things like that. But because there was no will, everybody was taking claim. People that did not invest into my sister's life are trying to profit off her death.
That was my
And
question.
it's hard, to sit back and see these things. I mean, I know a lot of people in the area of Friendship West, you've probably seen a van drive down the street with her picture on it and things of that nature. And there's nothing we can do right now because of probate. There's nothing we can do. So these people who have not did anything for my sister is collecting money, a whole bunch of money, on her behalf. And we have to fight the courts first before we can fight them. So with those probates, with those wills and things like that, those things will be able to be resolved a whole lot easier.
And I see a comment where someone says some in our community feel superstitious around wills. And I understand that, but we all know superstitions are only fears of the mind, fears of the mind, and it's like almost like a distraction. Um, you don't want to. This is not a time for superstitions. I know people feel like if I do a will right now, I'm gonna die tomorrow, but no, that is not the case. That is not the case. Please, y'all, that
And
is
yeah, you
not the
just want to
case.
be prepared. Like, you put money in your savings account because you want to, just for a rainy day, you want to have and you don't know if you're going to have a day. You don't know if you're going to lose your job or whatever, but you put your money there to save it so that you can, have those funds. And that's exactly what these wills are and, life insurance are. It's not saying that I'm going to die today or anything like that. It's like I'm going to make sure that my life is in order to the end, point blank, period.
Hmm.
Do you mind going into detail about family members that popped up out of nowhere? Or is that something we can't discuss?
And
I
it's
mean,
really not
y'all,
even family members. It's just a representative.
right?
They're representatives because to be a family member would be a blood thing, right? So these are just representatives
Oh, okay. Representatives of people that,
of the so-called family.
okay, representatives of family members that came out of nowhere. Got
Yeah.
Right,
Gotcha,
right.
gotcha, gotcha. All right. So now I have Erica. She said, what's the Tatiana project? We've already gone over that. This will be recorded, but it is a nonprofit that is built in Tatiana's memory to provide STEAM access to our children. Sandra Hart gave an extra question. Now we're going to have an attorney and she's going to discuss wills and beneficiaries. So we're going to hold those questions till then. Is there anything else that promoted this vision? Y'all good?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're just, like I said, guys, y'all know our a lot of people in our community do not have traditional families, and with the mom and the dad and the children type situation, and because of that, our lives are not reflected in the estate law. So the only thing that we can do to um adjust to this law, because your goal is, if it's the law, how do we work with it, um is to make sure you have a will, is to make sure you have beneficiaries and life insurance and funeral arrangements and things like that, because that's also hard. Funeral arrangements is really hard, because now they ask you questions like, well, what's their favorite color, or what kind of flower do they like, or what, and you're like,
Oh my God.
God.
I never got the chance to ask.
Because I
That's really a bad feeling because then you start to beat yourself up like, dang. So then you start asking your living siblings, what's your favorite color?
Yes, yes.
What's your favorite flower?
Right. Because these are things that I've never thought about asking each
Yeah, I
other.
never thought about asking those questions.
But we're learning
Crazy.
that, yeah, we're definitely learning that this is, it's very intimate. When this person died, you learn so much, their finances and everything. You're just like, oh my God, their clothes, what kind of music they like. And you just like, there's a lot of things I'm learning that I did not know about my sister or my mom, or things like that. But we're all, just growing.
I sure do want to thank y'all for opening your hearts and your experiences to share with us. This is an eye-opening experience, and I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Dr. G.
Thank you.
Y'all are more than welcome. I'm so grateful, like I said, that you wanted to open it up and share with us. So now what we are getting ready to do, we getting ready to bring on some big information as well. We're going to bring on our attorney. All right, so now I'm going to introduce her. Our attorney is Miss Winnie Cannon. She's the principal attorney for the Cannon Law Group. And her specific practice areas are estate planning and probate law. We got a expert winner. So, Attorney Cannon, she holds a BA in Government and Politics and an MA, a Master of Arts in International Relations from the University of Maryland. Her law degrees, Juris Doctorate, and Masters of Laws were obtained from the Antioch School of Law and SMU Dedman School of Law. She is admitted to the state bars of Texas, Maryland, and West Virginia, various federal courts, and the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. She is located right here in the great city of Dallas for us. So you all, I'm going to bring on Attorney Cannon, and I'm going to bring on Miss Vicki Richardson, because they are working in areas that are going to overlap. Now, Miss Richardson, she is our life insurance, power of attorney, and other end-of-life experts as well. And I am also going to bring on Mr. Nat Clark. He is our funeral home instructor. So he's going to tell you what to do and what to expect there, help you avoid pitfalls, and make sure that you are operating in the best interest of your family and of your deceased loved one. So I will let them go ahead and discuss what they've got to discuss. Please post your questions in the chat. I know you're going to have some, and you have experts here that are going to answer them.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share this information. And we want you to know that before we get into the specifics, information is different from knowledge. So what we're imparting to you based on our knowledge and experience and education, we're imparting information to you. Now, just because we give you the information doesn't mean that you automatically can do it yourself. That's a problem, because there's a lot of information on the internet. There are a lot of people that have just give out information, but if you don't know and understand how to apply the information, then you're still at a loss. So you wouldn't try to do your own brain surgery. So therefore, we're here together to talk about getting your house in order. And I'm the person that wants to deal with you from the womb to the tomb. So we need to plan. We just need to plan. We need to plan the beginning to the end. We need to think about not only our death, but we need to think about what happens if we become incapacitated. What if you're not mentally able to make your own decisions? What if you are physically unable to go to the bank and to transact business? So we want to give you information that will lead you from the womb to the tomb. And I spoke with Miss Richardson Stewart last night, and we was just saying, oh wow, all of our things just integrate so much. So before I go in, I don't want to bore you all with all of the facts, but it is important to realize that we're giving you this information because many people have children. The incapacitation part is important because one of the things that we want to avoid, if we can, is going to court. Okay, there are so many things that we can do. We can basically have a health directive that basically says, okay, if I'm at the end of my life, what do I want to be? What is it? Resuscitated, or or just let me go on my own. You don't have to wait for a court and if you don't have a health directive, then you put your loved ones in a precarious position because they don't have the legal authority to make those kinds of decisions for you. So you need to have a health directive. You need to have a medical power of attorney, and you can specify within those documents what your decisions are, so that you're not held up here. If you're one of those people that say, "Let me go by the grace of God," you don't have to worry about a family member trying to go to court to keep you alive when it's your desire to go on. And then the statutory durable power of attorney is one that you use to basically for financial decisions. You're going to appoint someone to do everything that you could do if if you were able. Now, some people want to give that power of attorney now, but I have one, and I'm saying my son can't use that power of attorney until two doctors agree that I'm not able to make my decisions. It's a personal thing. You have to know your family and know how to move forward. And then it came up with it'll come up, and I think Mr. Clark will reiterate. When you it's important for you to make decisions while you are competent, while you are not stressed out. You can basically, in that estate planning, you can appoint someone as your agent for the disposition of your remains. In other words, you can, in this document, you can say, I want a funeral, I want cremation, to take me to the desert and let me become a part of the elements, whatever. And you can designate everything down to the color of your casket, whatever. We can do that up front so that your desires are realized, and it's not up to your family member who may not have gotten a favorite color and some other things, and the soloist to sing at the memorial. So all of those parts, and the last piece of it, and the one that is surrounding this topic today, is the last will and testament. The last will and testament is very important because you can save thousands of dollars and eons of pain and agony by writing your will. Because if you don't have a will, the Texas legislature or any state that you live in America has laws of intestate succession where it designates how your property would go. Now, the question that's on our flyer was, just because you're married, you and your husband in the state of Texas may own property as it's community property, and you may think that, oh wow, when my spouse dies, I automatically have this property. Maybe not, maybe yes. It depends on, did you all have children together? Are there children outside of the marriage? Whatever. You know what I'm saying? So there are measures that we can take so that you can take some measures that are outside of a will. Like if you feel comfortable with your spouse, you can do a deed that says joint deed with right of survivorship. And so, but some people who, because divorce is so prevalent, they may not want to do that. But it's a case by case situation. But come in to talk to your counsel of choice, your attorney of choice. You can go over your specifics to make those decisions. But it's important to at least have a basic will and to designate who are your family members, who are the people you want to inherit from you. You can have your cat inherit from you. You can have your favorite charity. You can disown, you can not inherit, you can not leave an inheritance to your children. So if that's the case, you need to write a will. But if you don't write a will, they're going to take by the laws of intestate succession. So it's very important to have a will. But guess what? Some people may want to have a trust, a family irrevocable trust where they transfer all of their access and whatever now into the trust name. And so when they die, we totally avoid probate. So all of this is very, very detailed. We only have a few minutes here today, but post your questions. That's my little quick take of the information that will help you know what you don't know so that you can ask questions. What do you think, Miss Vicky? What do you think?
Oh, I think that's beautiful, good, great information. A lot of information. Again, like you said earlier, that we can't tell it all in within an hour of the time that we have allotted in order to be able to achieve the things that we want to achieve for the community as far as knowledge and education. But there are a lot of important things, again, that, we don't have time to discuss. And hopefully some of those questions would be given to Una so that maybe we can answer some of them. Because when you talk about things like this is something that nobody wants to talk about. But everybody end up talking about it sooner or later. And so it's so important of this conversation. First, I want to thank Amber and Ashley, the Tatiana project, the Dr. G, Friendship West, and Pastor Fitzgerald. He knows I love him to death and back because of his commitment to serving the community and all over. He's not limited. He serves inside the church, he serves outside the church. And so that's my brother, and I love him from the bottom of my heart. And also, I want to tag team with Nat Clark II on some things. But first, I want to go into the life insurance portion of it, Nat, before we go into the ending part of it. But life insurance, the purpose of life insurance is it provides a financial support to the surviving dependents and or beneficiaries after the death of an insured. Now, if you're listening to what I'm saying, is that it provides a support to the surviving dependents. It does not say that life insurance is designed to bury someone. Okay, and so if you look at over the history, life insurance in the Black community, that's the only purpose of it, is to bury someone. That should not be the purpose of life insurance. It should be a financial vehicle left for those that are beneficiaries of those survivors of the insured. Sometimes we get it so miscalculated on what the purpose of life insurance is. For years and centuries, that's how other families have been building wealth, is behind life insurance. So you have your pros and your cons. And so with life insurance, a lot of times, even with pros, you look at tax deferred growth, where when a insured dies, that they leave this money, it's not taxed, and so that's money that they have that they can continue to live comfortably. There are different types of insurance. And, anything from some families say with term life insurance, what's the difference between that? What about whole life insurance? And then even this insurance that a lot of people are not aware of is universal life insurance, which is adjustable life insurance. These are things that are so important because every one of these plans are not for everybody. It's all based on your financial situation, your age, where you are in life right now. But the one thing that I do think across the board is when purchasing life insurance, we need to do it early and not late when our health gets bad and all those things, because we're paying a whole bunch of money. And if you're buying a large life insurance policy or a small life insurance policy just to bury you, you're doing it wrong. And so you need to reevaluate and you need to get educated. And sometimes there are so many different opportunities out here where organizations are talking about the insurance vehicle and how it should be used. And a lot of times we don't take the time to do that. We just, I remember the old, where they still have some insurance companies like this, where the guy comes to the door with his little book, knock on the door, and mom or grandmom giving them that little what, $7 or $8 every 2 weeks and things like that. And the insurance agent never talked to them about the increase of funeral expenses and all these type of things. And so when the loved one passes, then they find out they have an $800 policy that the parents been paying on for 25 years. This and it, what it does is that it literally really hurts the family when they sit in front of a funeral director like Nat Clark II, and all they have is $800, and there's an $8,000 funeral. And so we have to learn how to ask our parents. I call it, we need to have the talk. We need to have the talk with our parents, our loved ones, each other about, are we planning for the future? And the future, we plan for everything else. We plan for when we get grown and we go to college. We plan for having children, is getting married. We plan for going on vacation, what type of jobs we're going to have. But we never actually sat down and have a bucket list to say, what about end of life?
So, Ms. Vicki, can I
Yes.
jump in and
Yes.
talk about insurance and how it relates to a will? If you have an insurance policy and you designate a beneficiary on it, then that is what is an asset that doesn't come through the probate court. Okay.
Correct.
The only time it comes through probate is when the person doesn't designate anyone.
Correct.
Okay.
That is
So,
correct.
but one of the key things that you said was insurance can be a vehicle. A lot of people say, oh, having a will is fantastic. It sounds good, but I don't have anything. Well, you know, you can buy a term life policy, very particularly if you're young, and you
Right.
can basically make your estate the beneficiary, such
Right.
that the dispositions that you make in the will, say you want to give $10,000 to this one, but you would have the resources to finance your will, to fund what your intentions are in terms of making distributions to your loved ones. Now,
Right.
another thing that insurance can be used for in terms of planning, from the womb to the tomb. Say you have a child, and say you're not married to the father of the child.
Ooh,
You
that's
know,
a good one.
one thing is you have you have a beneficial interest in that. You have an insurable interest in that father's life. So in the old days, you had to get the person to agree. Even you can own the policy on the life of another. But can you tell us more about how that can be used as a tool to help people during life and afterlife?
Yes.
Afterlife is the same thing.
Right.
How you can use how you can make that person who may not be paying child support or may not have the financial wherewithal. How can you basically use life insurance to basically leave an asset to your children or your child or whatever? Can you talk about that?
Yes, sure. So a lot of times, when a couple are together, and one of the things you want to do is talk about your financial affairs as far as life insurance, especially when there's children involved. And in some cases, the both spouses agree to have insurance and things like that. But then something goes bad, and the relationship is separated, and the father goes on his way, for an example, and say that the mother, and it could be either way. It could be a difference of, could be the mother that goes away and the father's left with the responsibility of children, or vice versa. So what happens is a lot of times that spouse that's with the children will say, well, I'm going to let the insurance go. No, don't do it. Keep the insurance, because if something happens to that father or that mother, that insurance vehicle is there to help them to continue to live comfortably, okay, based on whatever the amount might be. So, and even if they're not a situation where they were married or anything like that. sometimes you have to come together and have the conversation. Say, now, if something happens to me or something happens to you, you know, a life insurance will help our children to continue to move forward and not send them backward. And a lot of times with you as an attorney, Attorney Cannon, where, you know, they can come to the attorney and make those decisions on how they want that money to be dispersed, or if there's going to be a guardianship involved, to say the husband or wife are in a car accident and both. I just saw this happen just recently, where they both were killed and the children are left with, you know, the grandparents are going to have to raise them. So you have to be, you just don't cancel the policy. If you can afford it, keep it so that it can continue, you know, to help that family move forward in life. And I'm hoping that answer your question.
Yes, yes, and you can use so what about people that are in business with one another?
So
And how can insurance be a great planning tool for a situation where a partner or one of the business owners dies? And
okay,
and what would typically happen is their spouse, or if they haven't made a will or whatever, all of that could tie the business up if the business people don't make decisions. So can you tell us how insurance could, because what we try to do is we try to get the partners to agree to what the value of the business is at the onset, and have in their agreements to say, well, what happens if somebody dies? And then we say that I'm just using a low number because of math. Just say we say the business is worth $100,000. Well, I'm going to take $100,000 policy on my partner, and my partner is going to take $100,000 out on me. One of us dies, so we value the policy. We value the business at $100,000. So now I only have to pay $50,000 to whoever that person's heir was, the surviving spouse or whatever the configuration is, whether they had a will or not will, that configures in it as well. But we use insurance to buy out the other person's share, and now you got an extra $50,000 to put in the business. So, you know, insurance is a wonderful tool in terms of planning for, you know, the death of you as an individual to take care of your family, and the death of you as a business owner or part to pass on, to take care of your business, to ensure the continuity of your business, but also to give money to buy out that person and have to keep the company liquid. So I think you offer wonderful service by being an insurance broker, because there's so much you can do with insurance.
One of the things is the actual insurance that you're talking about, Attorney Cannon, that is called a key man insurance. And basically what that does is, again, like you were saying earlier, if one, you know, it's protection for one of the partners, if the other partner passes. And so therefore, and there's always have to be some type of agreement in place that, you know, if the other partner or the business gets 50% of the will, of the insurance, and then the rest goes to the family or vice versa, or however you want to set that up. But you always want to protect it, because a lot of times when this is not in place and there's no type of will or any type of writing in the information about the business, and then you get a partner that passes, and then their spouse is left to try to make decisions and know absolutely nothing about the business, it becomes a huge issue, especially if the surviving partner wants to move the business forward or be able to do all the things that the partner and the deceased partner talked about where they want to take the business to and things like that. So it actually crushes the vision of what the joint partners had, because now you've got a spouse in there that other people are in that spouse's ear, and saying, well, just cash out of it or just close the business down and just walk away from it and things like this. So in order to be able to eliminate that, you need to have the key man insurance where the business can continue to progress and continue to move forward, but also having all the necessary documents with the attorney saying these are the things that they want to happen. Or if the business can be bought out, that portion be bought out by someone else, or merging the business, or selling the business, all of those things. So all of those things need to be in writing. But having the key man insurance in place is very, very important.
I think that's great. Can we move on to talk about what goes on at the funeral home? Okay,
great. So pre-planning is something that is so important. Attorney Cannon kind of touched on it earlier. Is pre-planning is something that eliminates, it stops so much problems with the families, because a lot of times when death occurs, when it comes to a parent or grandparent, family know who's going to handle business and who's not going to handle business. But if it's not in writing, when the glue passes, which is the parent, grandparent, then everybody else falls apart. And so what pre-planning does, and sometimes people call it pre-need, but pre-arranged funeral planning basically allows you to have a provision of putting things in place, not allowing other family members to have to make those decisions. I think it was Ashley or Amber that said earlier about, trying to decide on these type of things that you've never talked about, if the person wanted to be cremated or if they wanted a traditional burial. Did I pick the right color casket? I should have gotten roses instead of carnations? Things like this, even after it's all said and done. And this still stays on that loved one's mind. Did I do the right thing? Was the casket should have been silver instead of blue? Or should I have gotten this? Or, and when you don't do those things, then you allow them to have to continue to carry this with them for the rest of their life. I pre-planned my funeral arrangement at age 32. I paid it off at age 37 with a comfortable payment, because, when I make financial decisions, I've never made a financial decision in a funeral home while I'm grieving. It's been at a bank, at my CPA, or with my attorney. I've never made financial decisions at a funeral home. And so a lot of times when you're making a financial decision at a funeral home while you're grieving and trying to make decisions, and then you got other people in your ear, because I've never seen, and that, you can talk about this, I've never seen one person that actually come to the funeral home to make arrangements for a loved one. It's normally 8 people, but one person is the money. Yes. And so when you pre-plan, you're doing everything in advance. You're allowed, the price is locked in. And a lot of times people go like, well, no, someone has said earlier about pre-planning, or the superstition, I think it was Ashley, about the superstition that falls behind pre-planning, saying, well, if I pre-plan, I'm going to die. Do you know how many people that have died that they had not pre-planned? There's a lot of people that didn't have wills that died. So let's get rid of that superstition and take this burden off of our loved ones. And so with Nat, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you, just kind of go into some of the things that you have to deal with when you're sitting in front of the family making arrangements.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you again for having me on. But most of the time when families come in, they're not prepared. They ask a lot of questions amongst each other. What type of casket or what color casket would mama have wanted, or dad, or whoever their loved one may have been. They don't know which cemetery to go to. They're not aware of cemetery costs. They're not aware of the clothing that the loved one might would like to wear. So I would just advise everyone to have that uncomfortable conversation and to come up with a plan, and to ease the burden of your family members, But Ashley and Amber, y'all shared a lot of information and knowledge. Miss Vicky, you too. Attorney Cannon, you shared a lot of good information. I would also like to point out about having the will so that it would just take the burden off of them. They would have a roadmap and direction of what direction they need to go into. And the benefit, as Ms. Vicky said, of pre-planning, you actually come into the funeral home and you pick out the type of service you want. You answer all those questions that your loved ones would have to answer for themselves, of the casket you want, the flowers you want, the clothing, if you want a church service or a cremation, what cemetery you want to go to. And Dr. G, I believe you had asked me a question about the actual cost. Most families do not know the first thing you do when you go into a funeral home, when you sit down at that arrangement table, they're supposed to give you a general price list. And what that general price list does, it goes over all the costs of the funeral home. So it's no guessing on what you need to pay. It's right there in front of you. Also, if you just don't want to go to the funeral home, they have a telephone price list. So if you call any funeral home, by law, they have to give you the prices over the phone. So there are many ways that you can get the information without going. Most funeral homes have their prices online, but to answer your question, Dr. G, you don't ever have to worry about getting duped or just paying more than what you feel is fair. You can always shop around. I advise you to shop around and ask for those general price lists, ask for that telephone price list to compare the prices and be comfortable with. A lot of families are unaware of the cemetery costs. Different cemeteries cost, they have their prices vary. You have different vaults that need to go in the ground. So it's a lot of non-funeral home related costs that go along with the service. So I would just suggest when that time comes, is to ask those questions, ask for that price list, ask for the telephone price list. Whenever you go into a showroom to view the caskets are supposed to have the prices in them, so you can see exactly what the casket costs. And always before you sign that contract, just make sure the prices reflect what the prices are supposed to be. You can go down that general price list and make sure the embalming cost is what the embalming cost is on that general price list. Make sure the family car is the same price as it is on that general price list. And that's pretty much it. I also want to say one more thing, piggyback on Miss Vicky, as far as the pre-need, you can freeze the cost. We had a lady who passed away at our funeral home, and she had signed a pre-need in 1995 and froze the cost at that price and paid it off. Her total service was maybe a little bit under $2,000, and today's cost, that service would have been about $12,000. So it's a benefit to go ahead and jump on the pre-need and to freeze the cost, so you don't have to overpay during, when that time comes, or your family won't have to pay the extra cost on something that you can easily take care of now. Excuse me.
Yeah. So Nat, also, so there was a question that popped up, and it was talking about the difference between a sealer casket and a non-sealer casket. So, trying to say, is it waterproof? What is the difference between, because some funeral homes just say sealer, non-sealer. Some call it, the casket company calls it a gasketed casket versus a non-gasketed casket. So what is the difference between the two?
They're waterproof. It's just the way they're locked. On the non-gasket, it's a latch where you lock it in the front, and on the gasketed, you have the key turning lock. So to answer your question, it's just a locking style on how the casket is locked and secured.
Okay. So what about cemeteries, Nat? Does the funeral home control the cost of the cemetery, or is that something that's totally separate from the funeral home?
Yes, ma'am. The cemetery cost is separate from the funeral home. So to answer your question, yes, it's two different costs. So when you go in and you sign, unless you put the cemetery cost and you know what cemetery you want to go to, you put that cemetery cost on the contract and everything is paid in full, then the funeral home would take care of the cemetery for you. If you do not have that cemetery cost included in your sales contract from the funeral home, then the family would be responsible for the cemetery.
Okay, great. Okay, so and let me go back and kind of reiterate about pre-planning. So back in the 40s and 50s, people were pre-planning with the funeral homes, and they go into the funeral home and make their funeral arrangements. So they go back 3, 4, 5 years, or say that the loved one passes, they go to the place or the location of that funeral home. That funeral home is no longer there, okay, or it's burned down, or the owner has just gone, and people lost their money. So what happened was every state stepped in because there were so many complaints of this happening. So all funeral pre-plans are regulated by their state. Texas Department of Banking regulates Texas funeral pre-planning, pre-play planning. So if you go to a funeral home to set up pre-arranged funeral planning, the funeral home does not hold the funds. The funds are held by a third party. That would be either an insurance company or a trust company. Some funeral homes may have, both the trust company and the insurance company. So what happens is that once you set up that plan, this is the funeral home that you want to use, and you set up a prearranged funeral plan with that particular funeral home. The funds are going to be held by that third party, the insurance company or trust company. So you're going to make your payments to that trust company or insurance company. Any type of concerns that you may have about how much you've paid into it, any questions pertaining to the payment, you're going to call that third party and not the funeral home. In some cases, you can call the funeral home, whatever agent wrote you or the counselor that wrote you the pre-need can get that information for you if you don't want to call the third party yourself directly. Okay, so this is just basically telling you that your monies are safe. Okay, and the cost is frozen at today's price, the day that you purchased that prearranged funeral planning. So therefore, you have a choice of 1 year, 3 year, 5, 7, or 10 years to pay that plan out. So the main thing is what's comfortable for your budget. So you say, well, I'm doing this prearranged funeral plan and I have some health conditions. Is that going to stop me from being able to get that plan? No, it will not stop you from being able to get the plan. All plans are set up, based on whatever your situation is, so that it works for you. And the main thing is that it's comfortable, because if you're on medication and you're taking medication and you're paying your funeral arrangement, but if something happens, say your car breaks down, something like that, and you have to make a choice of if I'm going to pay my funeral plan or should I buy my medicine? Well, hopefully you're going to take care of your medicine, because if it's a situation you say, well, I'm just going to pay the funeral plan and not my medicine, then you're going to need that funeral plan for sure, because it's important that the plan fits your budget. And like I said, the plan is frozen, and then you have a designated time that it pays off. That's one of the difference between prearranged planning and life insurance. Life insurance, you pay on it, and you pay on it, and you pay on it until you die. Versus with a prearranged funeral plan, it has a designated time that it pays off. And once it pays off, it sits there and it sits there until the need occurs. And so those are the difference between the life insurance and the funeral plan. So sometimes you hear the statement burial plan. Burial plan is somewhat of a whole life insurance plan. It's just less money. And that what happens when people come in and they have insurance plans that they had no idea that funerals are at the expense that they are versus the life insurance policy that they purchased 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's a disappointment to the families. They for the example you used earlier, where the family was paying the $7, $8 every 2 weeks, and the policy was only $800. That happens a lot, and so that's why it's very important. If you want to use insurance for a funeral, I would suggest to go ahead and do the pre-need versus insurance, because of the inflation on the services. Funeral prices increase yearly, and if you get a $5,000 policy to pay for a funeral today, it might not be enough 2 or 3 years down the line. So again, pre-needs would be the way to go to take care of the funeral expenses, and then life insurance should be used as a tool as a bridge to not allow your family to start from square one. You would always want the next generation to have a little bit more of a head start going forward in life, instead of just starting from square one and having to repeat what you had tried to do for your family. So insurance should be used as a bridge to go towards the future, and the pre-need should, in my opinion, be used to pay for the funeral service.
Right.
All right. So thank you all so much for that. Now I have a question here from Sandra. Is it frozen in all states? I understand everybody here is only dealing with the state of Texas. So
I'm also licensed in the state of Louisiana and Arizona. So they also have regulatory vehicles that assist with the plants being frozen. Yes, it's in most states. Yes.
Okay, and then Pastor Fitzgerald, are all costs of funeral homes the same if they're using a price list?
No, sir. No, sir. No, that's why it's very important to, I would suggest to shop around, get that price list. If you don't want to drive around town, you can always call and get the telephone price list over the phone, and they can, by law, they have to mail it to you if you request for them to mail it to you. So you do have rights to where if you don't, like I said, don't want to drive around, have them mail it to you, and they have to do that. You can request that.
All right. So thank you both for all of this wonderful information. Thank you. We are now going to open it up for the Q&A. You all can put questions in the chat, and I know some were emailed to Una, and she will go ahead and she's going to start addressing questions. And if you need somebody else to help you, I will bring them back up for you as well. We'll do this one real quick. She said that was for the state of Louisiana. I believe Ms. Richardson said she was licensed in Louisiana, and that they are regulated there as well. So I will go ahead and let Una address the questions.
Okay, the first question is for the entire panel. How would you address folks that do not want to secure an attorney for the will due to fear of cost?
Well,
let me address that one as from a legal perspective. You're going to pay now or later. You have these factories, you got this Zoom, and you got a whole lot of people that just sell information, but it's not backed with knowledge. Earlier on, I tried to make a distinction between information and knowledge. You can pay maybe $100 for a fill in the blank will yourself, but guess what? If it doesn't, when you have a will, this is something I forgot to say. Just because you have a will, that's just the first part. Because if you gotta take that will to court to have it probated. It's not like a power of attorney that you just have the document. That's the first step. So if you go to one of these paper factories, document preparation things, or you pay for something to download yourself, it may or may not get you where you need to be, because the first test is the will valid? Can the will be proved up? So I would say, if I had cancer or a heart condition, I would want somebody to deal with me and my particular circumstances, because everybody's needs are different. So while we say, you get what you pay for. So I wouldn't be intimidated by a cost, because the cost may, just like someone said, they're suspicious if they make a will, they may die. Well, the legal fees may not be as expensive as you think they are. And then people like myself do offer payment plans to make sure that you get what you need. So there's you pay one way or the other. You can pay cheaply and then not end up going to court anyway, because what you've gotten isn't sufficient or doesn't cover all of the nuances that deal with your finances and your family.
Right. And one of the things also that we also want to make sure that we let people know, because I've seen it so much in the 30 years that I've been doing this business, is where families have come to the funeral home with the power of attorney of the deceased. They do not understand that once that person is deceased, that power of attorney is no longer any good. That's where it goes from the power of attorney to the will. Okay, so even though you handle things for that person and all of that, but once that person dies, that power of attorney is no longer valid. Okay.
Okay. And the second question, what is the tax benefit of a trust?
That's a complicated question. We have to know more facts. I mean, what is in your trust? Do you have 3 properties? Do you have 5? Do you have 10? What else is in the trust? So I would not even attempt to answer that question. Certainly, because it's based on what you're putting in the trust fund. And what I do when I counsel with people to set up trust, I also try to either co-counsel with a tax attorney or a CPA to make sure that what the objective is in terms of what the person wants to accomplish also gives them the best advantages tax-wise. So it's a case by case. The answer to that question is it depends. I know you hate that answer, but it depends.
It's an answer. Thank you. Thank you. And the next question, how do I get insurance in the state of Texas on an adult that doesn't appreciate their need for it?
Ooh, good question. So, on an adult, that means that person is over age 18. And so that person has to sign that contract saying that they know that insurance is being put on them. And they can have an owner, but they do have to sign that contract. And so you cannot take out a life insurance policy on someone, and that's an adult that does not want to sign the policy. They have to sign.
Okay, but this is a question that I have. Okay, earlier I stated that if you have an insurable interest in someone's life, like I gave the example of, a parent who may not be necessarily married to the other parent, and they want to make provision for that. Now, and that's a personal testimony of mine. Okay, so in Maryland, you could basically get a policy on an adult if you could prove that you had an insurable interest. However, in the old days, they had to submit to, the urine and the blood thing. So while they didn't have to consent to, I guess technically they had to agree to submitting to the testing, but certainly in the state of Maryland, there were ways of obtaining, getting a policy on someone who was an adult.
Not in the state of Texas. That adult has to sign the contract.
Okay.
So they can agree to the blood urine check, and then in some cases now, technology is so advanced is that an insurance company may not even ask for urine or blood, until the policy is like over 250,000. Okay, so what they do is they have that individual social security number, and so what they do is a prescription check. It's kind of like a credit bureau, or like medical bureau investigation. All of the doctors and prescriptions they are put into that system. So the insurance company can go into that system, social security number, and say, okay, so these are the prescriptions that this person is taking. So at that point, it tells them basically what the illnesses are. Okay, so they don't have to take a urine or a blood or anything like that. But they still, as an insured, the insurance company is insuring them. They still have to sign the application because they are, again, over age 18, so they're an adult. Okay. So they do not have to be the owner of the policy, and so the beneficiary can be the children, or and the owner could be the person that say the ex-spouse, but that individual, the insured themselves, do have to sign the application.
And I'm sure that, depending case by case, maybe, and it depends on who the adult is. I'm stuck in the family world right now for this presentation. But, like say if there's a child support issue, maybe that can be a leverage tool for negotiating the amount of child support, or saying in lieu of you paying me $1,000 a month, maybe I'll take 500 if you agree to let me own a policy on your life. So, we're not stuck in a box. One of the things I like to say is I like to be creative in terms of looking at the problems that people come individually and seeing if there is a legal workaround to get the objective that the person is seeking.
I'm gonna say so. That came from me because I have an estranged older son, and I know he out there wilding.
Right.
I wanted to know because it's gonna come back to me if something happens. If I'm in a position to be prepared, and I'm a licensed agent. I was just trying to find out, was there a loophole? Because we were talking last night. I insure also my niece and nephew, and getting ready to increase their coverages because when I first got the policies, now it's a little, and then realize, boom, they're both 18 now. I can increase nothing.
Dr. G, what I suggest is that you cook a real good meal and invite him over. And
now, but I don't want him knowing where I live.
Oh no!
Right? Yeah.
We gonna let that
go. Right.
Yeah. Guess what, Dr. G? You're not the only person like that.
Yeah.
All right. So
right.
There's nothing new under the sun anymore. I promise. Believe me.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next question, could I just do a living will through my local hospital?
Well, you got to understand what a living will is. A living will is technically a health directive.
Right.
It's not the same as your last will and testament. So, you're not making any dispositions to loved ones. You're not naming an executor. This is just basically, a glorified way of calling it a health directive. But yes, the answer to the question is yes.
So my question is to Pastor Fitzgerald. Pastor Fitzgerald, you're in and out of hospitals a lot. What are some of the conversations that you're entangled in or involved in when you're in the hospital talking to someone that is doctor saying this is it? We're giving you a few days. That person may be on hospice and things like. How do you interact? How do you deal with that? And as far as with their families and all those type of things.
Well, one of the things, matter of fact, I'm dealing with 3 of those cases as we speak. 3. One of the things that I struggle with is, and Vicki, you are one of the individuals that I sent this particular person to, and now they're right in the midst of having 2 months to live. Had they would have got their pre-needs in order when we first started talking, all of this would have been in order. But now that's a difficult place to talk because of the fact that here we got financial issues that he's not even talking about. They're not even talking about passing. They're talking about living. And so now all that information is based on the family, like the Carr family. Everything is on their shoulders now. And that becomes a hardship because not only are you watching your loved one transition, you're thinking about all that other stuff, which creates a more hardship. And so there's who's going to get the car? Now you're starting to mediate that kind of stuff. And sometimes I feel, as you said, as a referee, because I got to balance. Here we got someone laying on their deathbed, and now they're already talking about who's going to get the truck, who's going to get the house. And I have to try to squash that because I said, let's consider what we're talking about and let's get this out of the room. because they will talk about that in front of the one who is passing, which creates a hardship for them even letting go of life.
Right.
So I have to keep my vitamins. I have to keep my information, everything, because it's very stressful on the individual who's the mediator. As you talk, that's the wrong time, as Brother Nat said. Try to get things in order. The wrong time, because it becomes very ugly. And I've gotten families right now not speaking to each other because of that.
And look, the thing that I want to say, let's leave our loved ones with a will instead of a bill.
Come on.
Because a lot of this stuff can be avoided.
Come on.
You know, so that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I want to share one other thing. My brother did the very same thing, and I just let his stuff go. I said, you didn't want to handle it? Let the state have it. Y'all have his house. Y'all have his car. Take it. And I just removed it. And
Right.
they're like, oh, you just gave all his items away. Well, if he didn't handle his stuff while he was living, I'm not going to handle it while he has passed away. And I let it go. Somebody got a whole lot of stuff in a good price, a very good price.
Yeah. Yeah.
And guess what? It's not mine, so I ain't worried about it.
Right. There you go.
Awesome.
There you go.
And Ms. Sandra Harp did have the question, share the importance of a power of attorney document. Tell the difference between the payable on death beneficiary and just beneficiary. I think you guys answered it earlier, but if you could reiterate.
Okay. Okay. Now, first of all, the statutory power, durable power of attorney is giving somebody the authority to do anything that you could do. Okay.
Right. That's right.
All right. And you can limit what the powers are, or you can make them very expansive. Just the other day, a lawyer friend of mine needed a limited power of attorney because he needs somebody to go to a closing for him. So, you can have a power of attorney just to do, go to the closing or go down there and sign this contract for me to buy this land or whatever. But it gives you the power, it gives you the authority to act, do anything or limited to what the person has specified in a document to transact business on their behalf. Now, because that person is your agent, they call them the attorney in fact. When you die, so does the power of attorney. It's gone. You can no longer use that instrument. And these days and times, the banks, and talking earlier about do-it-yourself things, banks are being so funny now that we have to go through extra measures to make sure the language is in place, because sometimes even if a person has a purported statutory power of attorney, the bank may not necessarily accept it. Okay. And so but the POD, we talked about that last night. So why don't you take that part of the question, Ms. Vicky?
Okay, so with the POD, when we go and open up a bank account, a savings account or checking account or CD or IRA, a lot of times, the bank person, teller, or whoever is opening up the account, some cases they will ask you, do you want a power, not a power, I'm sorry, payable on death is what POD stands for. And then sometimes they do not, but a lot of times it's your responsibility to make sure that you have someone as a POD, payable on death, because if you don't have that, and that account's in your name, is there's not another person that's or signature, not and, but or, say Vicky or Eddie, then it's just your signature on that account. So if death were to occur and there's no POD, then what happens is once the person is pronounced deceased, can the family after 24, 48 hours go to the bank and get money out of the account to pay for the funeral?
Nope.
They cannot. The account has been locked. So even though the money is in there to pay for the funeral, they can't get it. Okay?
And the horrible part about it is so easy to sign the daggone POD.
Right.
Okay, so people get me when they say, "Oh, I don't want to pay a lawyer money." Well, guess what? If you want to get that money and you didn't do a POD, then say if it's less than $75,000, there's a probate proceeding called a small estate affidavit.
Affidavit, that's right.
So you really have to go through that process, and I will charge you because it's going to take me time to do it. And I mean, and sometimes the person has to make the financial decision. Do I want to pay a lawyer X amount of dollars to get X amount of dollars?
Right.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The other day, the person said, "I don't want to pay you that." And I said, "You don't want to pay me that, and you're going to leave $15,000 on the table by you not wanting to give me this little bit of money?" So it's all about priorities, but we really have to operate. Because I mean, like a lot of people go and gamble. I'm not a gambler. Okay. Too cheap to be a gambler. But if I were a gambler, if I knew that I had to pay $1,500 to get 16,000, I don't even have to think about that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because that's a guaranteed win. You're not
Right.
taking a risk there. The money is in the bank. So we really need to make decisions from intelligence as opposed to ignorance. Intelligence means that I have the facts, I have the information, I'm looking at the pros and the cons, and now I'm going to make a decision. Because sometimes if it's $500 in a bank account and you got to pay a lawyer $1,500, well, maybe you need to donate that to the Bank of America.
Right. And then, and we're not just talking about a 50 or 60 or 70-year-old. We're talking about anybody that's over age 18
Right.
that can sign any type of document. And so I just love your spirit, Ashley and Amber, for the simple fact is that this needs to be out there. I mean, even today, I met someone because she has never experienced death in her family. She's got her grandmother, she's got all of her aunts, she's got all of her uncles. She's never had to go to a funeral home for anything right now. She's 40 years old, but eventually it's going to happen. And if there's not anything in place, then the family is left to do the same thing that you guys are going through right now. And so
Right.
I really applaud what you're doing, and it's so important the knowledge of the education that is being provided.
All right, Miss Una, we got any more questions?
One last question. What if I get a pre-need in Texas and move out of state? Do we answer that one?
No, we did not answer that one.
Okay.
So if you get a pre-need out of state, again, because there's a third party holding the funds. So if you move out of state, that plan is portable. It can be transferred to any state. Now, if you move to Mexico, to Canada, or some other country, it's not valid. Okay? So you want to stay within the 50 states. You want to stay within the 50 states. And it is transferable, it's portable. Now, if you move to another state, not using the funeral home, of course, that you originally wrote with, that funeral home can say, okay, we're going to accept this $5,000 policy, for an example, but our plan is $10,000. Let's do the same thing. So you're going to have to come up with that other $5,000. And a lot of times that happens with corporate funeral homes. That's corporate funeral homes, the cemeteries, like SCI or some of the larger corporations. Most of the time with independently owned funeral homes, family owned funeral homes, they will accept that pre-need for what it is. Okay, so sometimes you have to call if you're going to move to Florida, because I actually had a client that has a pre-need with me, and he moved to Florida, and he's transferred. He's wanted me to transfer it. So I even set up the funeral home in Florida, which when we go to conventions, right, Nat, we need to mingle with all different type of funeral homes and things like that. And so they said, "Oh, well, it's coming from you. Yeah, we'll honor it." Okay, so just depending, you have to do your research, and so a lot of times whoever was that, if they're still in business, whoever wrote that pre-need, go back to them first and see who they know or who the funeral home has a connection with. Okay, but
I,
it is transferable in the United States.
Okay. All right, Attorney Cannon.
I just want to leave some information. Uh, whatever state you're in, like say we're in Texas, so you can go to the Texas Comptroller website and look for unclaimed property because a lot of people have a lot of money that's sitting there is from security deposits that you never got, or you or bank accounts that you forgot that you had. I mean, there's all kinds of money there. I mean, so while you're alive, even when someone dies and comes to me and they think they don't have anything, I always run that search. But you can run that search. Anybody
Mhm.
on this call, I mean, on this event or participating can go and like if you lived in Maryland, you lived in you can just go to the comptroller's website for unclaimed property because it's billions of dollars that people just don't claim. And last word from me is where there is a will, there's a way, and let thy will be done. Death is a equal. It does not discriminate. You
It
can be
does
a
not.
baby,
No.
you could be 100. You know, all of what we were talking about should be applied by everybody. The millennials need to think that they need to have plans. They may not be extensive, but you need to have your will and your other planning in place. Because when you send your Dr. G, when your 8-year-old gets ready to go to college, right now, if he needs to go to the doctor or something, you can just go ahead on and God forbid, if he had an accident or something and he needed surgery, you're the mom. He's a minor. But when he goes off to college and if he was in an automobile accident or something, guess what? You're his mom, but you're not his legal guardian. So that's why these planning tools, like even a young person, particularly, I really try to push it to people who kids are going off to college to get that, to have that child give their parent that medical power of attorney, because it's always better to have it and not need it than to take that chance.
Mhm.
Correct.
So
That's
that's
correct.
all.
I didn't even think about that. But one question, though, I was the one that posted the question about the trust, too, because I'm under the impression that my son, like I said, walks into a lot when I leave this earth. It's better if I have to go to a trust. That way, basically, Texas can't touch it. Is that not correct?
The trust owns it. So you're going to basically make sure you have the right person being your trustee. Some people pick an individual, some people use banks to be the trustee. But definitely it's the trust, and the trust will make those disbursements in accordance to how you set it up. So I'll
Okay.
give you an example. There was a situation, this man was involved in an explosion, and there was a multi-million dollar settlement. He had 2 children. He set up they before when they settled the case, he died. But anyway, the wife had the wherewithal, or maybe uh, she was approached, but Frost Bank got involved and they set up the trust, and their payments that go up to these kids get 40 years old. Okay, they were
Good.
minors when this happened. Okay, but how it was structured was it was structured such that they wouldn't have a running reign of that money. They wanted to incentivize the kids to go to college and to have jobs, but at pivotal points, every year they got a disbursement. But when they hit critical times, they had a bigger, because like when you get to be 25, maybe this is the time you want to buy a house. So there would, you could structure it that way, but you can, but it was
Okay.
really wonderful in terms of how that was set up. And then if you any interest, if any, there's this thing called the law of perpetuities must vest in 21 years.
All right. So now, Pastor Fitzgerald, he needed to get going. Thank you so much for coming on board. Thank everyone for attending. We appreciate you all. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and close out. Any last words y'all want to leave? Anybody? Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Dr. G. We want to use your strength and your information, how we want to do it. We have one coming up in May. So I love what you've done. And I want to I already talked to Una. We want to use you because you have strength. We want to use the Car Sisters on what we're doing so that we will go global. And I just believe it's so important, y'all, to keep this in order because it keeps a lot of mess, fights and battles. It keeps it down, even to the point that you will still have family after you pass. And that's,
hallelujah. That's a blessing.
That I did that for my daughter. She has we have a life insurance, and I did the pre-need. And so she has it done. And I told her, she said, so Daddy, when you die, I can use that money to buy me a new car. I said, there you go. All right. So God bless you. It's important. I said, that will be my last gift to you, a house and a car. God bless you. And I'm out of here. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So we thank everybody for joining us. Thank you, Attorney Cannon. Thank you, Pastor. And of course, thank you all for your vision, Ashley and Amber. Thank you, Una. Thank you, Miss Vicky. And so it looks like we'll be doing this again.
Yes.
Hey, Blake.
Look at his handsome self.
So, yes, this was great. Excellent information. I still have questions, but we're out of time. So we will be doing this again soon. Thank you all. I applaud you. You all are some of the strongest women I know. I appreciate you. I applaud you. And I am always here for you. And I believe
we thank you, Dr. G, for your support in everything that we do. Everything.
You are more than welcome. I believe in the Atatiana Project.
Amen.
All right. You all have a wonderful day. Thank y'all for joining us.
By the way, thanks for the shoot.
All right. We'll see y'all next time.
Mom, by the way.